The horse is this thing, right? Can only see this side. When somebody, I came down while, for walking, I came down from a house, and the lady on the top of our house, she started shouting at the kids who were playing football, and the side house lady was shouting. Immediately, I also shouted, saying that where the hell kids can go and play? All the playgrounds, there are apartments now. Road, they cannot go and play. I started shouting. Then I became aware. Why am I getting angry? What is causing me anger? What is causing this anger? The anger is arising. You say we are emotional, that's why we are angry. We're getting emotional. But what is causing that emotion? Because of emotions only that anger is coming. That emotions are caused because of your identifications. If they had shouted at somebody on the road, the children, you would have said, yeah, these guys need to be shouted, But because it is your kids, you get upset. So you understand? Now you come to Sat. Why I said logical? Because I wanted to divert this thing from emotion. Quickly, if a person wants to get out, when they're emotional, they have to look at the other point of view. Oh, that person is logical. That's why, see the other point of view. But the reality is, why we get emotionally hurt, emotionally challenged, emotionally disturbed is simply because we are identified with that. We think that is ours, they are ours, this is what we own, that is why we get upset. You see, last night I was just getting out from my puja, and then suddenly Gurus gave this thing on. They said 3 traps. 3 traps. A trap for the body, a trap for the mind, a trap for the emotion. Can any of you tell me what is one of the biggest trap for the body? Food, fine. Food is needed. Without food you cannot survive. But what is the biggest trap? That means if you have to really make it function well. You see, body, mind, emotion were given for a certain purpose to you. But if you really want it to function the way it has to function, one machine is there. Mercedes Benz is there. It was meant to be driven on the highway. But you are stuck in this traffic. First gear you are going. That's a trap. Right? Once you get on the highway, you can go fast. Like this body, there's a trap for the body. There's a trap for the mind, there's a trap for the emotion. What are these traps? These 3 things Gurus just gave, just like that. No.
Laziness for body is comfort. Oxygen in the body.
Very good. Big round of applause to all of you who said. It is laziness, it is inertia, it is, tamasic quality. Tamasic, very lazy, inertia. But it will be there. See, if you see the body, morning it will be very fresh. Afternoon it will be very aggressive. Evening it will be very lazy. So you need to watch your body. This is how it is behaving. But this is how the body is. But the body will drag the mind into it. You are very likely to get very emotional in the afternoons and nights. That is because body is very aggressive at that time. The sun is on the high side. So automatically you will get very emotional. Nights you will get emotional if you don't get sleep on time. When you are about to sleep, somebody calls the phone. Arey, abhi kya, who is calling me now? You get upset. You get emotionally upset. You don't get food on time, you get emotionally upset. Because the body will always take you towards that inertia. See, remember, body is deathward. Ultimately, one day we have to give up the body. So it will always move towards that only. It is deathward. But there is life within you, which is lifeward. The entire struggle of life, the drama, if you look at this, every plant, every creature you see, life is moving upward. It wants to move up, it wants to evolve. But the body is dragging it down. Sun will pull everything towards itself. Earth will pull everything towards itself. Bodies come from earth, it will pull it towards earth. Life has come from somewhere else, it wants to go there. It's a drama. But only you become so aware, you will start seeing this as separate. You can see body as different, emotion as different. You thinking that, okay, no. It's like, you think like as though everything is now one. But clearly, body is going to fall. It's going to fall. You need to see it. But the trap is inertia. Mind as a trap. What is that? So you have to guard yourself from the inertia of the body. It will always give it right exercise, give it good sleep, give it the right food. Forget about it. Forget about it. But body will keep asking. See, this is what is addiction. My mom will say, first thing when I get up, I have to drink coffee. Otherwise, my head will burst. That's because the body is asking. But you think, okay, I drink a little bit of coffee, my mind will be relaxed. No, because body and mind are closely linked. When the body is relaxed, mind feels relaxed. That's why you say, I drink a coffee and I feel relaxed. No, that's only creating an addiction. Because you are dependent on something outside of yourself for your happiness and pleasure. The moment you depend on something, it's like the crutch. You keep walking with a crutch, after some time, even without the crutch, you will feel very, like many of you use the inhalers? First couple of days, the cold will be there, you'll use the inhaler. After that, you'll be using it for 1 week, 2 weeks. I've seen people using for 6 months also, they'll be keeping the inhaler like this. Like a Vishnu Chakra, they'll be having. I say, why are you having it? I don't know why I'm having it. It's an addiction. Because body is asking. Bodies come from earth. It will always be cyclical like the earth. Day, night. Day, night. Day, night. Like that, same. Body will also keep on asking. Because it's memory. What is a trap for the mind?
Thoughts.
But without thoughts, how can we live? 60,000 thoughts come to a person. How can you say that's a trap? That's a necessity. That's the electricity which is running the mind. That is the fuel which runs the mind.
Pleasures.
Pleasures? No. Desires? No. Desires are much deeper. It's an emotion, isn't it? You can never logically desire for something. You have to emotionally desire. Correct? Past? Past is there, it's a memory. Judgment. Relationships. See, the trap for the body is inertia. If you become aware of it, you will always keep it in active stage. So it will perform well. The trap for the mind is conditioning. Programming. Somebody has said like this. You started believing it. That's all. That's a conditioning. When I came from US, I tried many businesses. I failed. Why? Because my mother had programmed me. Business is only for... Careful. Oops. Careful. Careful. Come, sit in this chair. You're okay? You're okay? Fine. Okay, come. Careful. So, my mom used to say, business is only for Marwadis. South Indians, you cannot become successful in business. That's a conditioning. I used to tell her, why Infosys Narayan Murthy is there? Like this I used to say, there's so many businessmen who are from South who are successful. But that's her worry that her son should not get hurt. That's all. Out of well-being only she did. But that has become my programming. So what is the trap for the mind is programming. If you have programming, you only think you are the programming. That's it. Because you think you are the programming, that's a trap for the mind. What is the trap for the emotion now? You understood the trap for the body is inertia. Because body, because of its memory, it will make you do more and more things which are inertia. Mind, because of the programming, it will not allow the mind to function well, because it will always think, I am the program. No, you are not the program. You are the observer of the program. You can watch your programs. But today you become identified so much with your programs that you think you are the programs. Somebody on the road we asked, is the earth rotating? No. Earth is normal only. Earth is rotating. But we'll say sun is rising, sun is setting. Earth is only rotating. But the illusion is so much that we don't realize that it is rotating. But if we go above the earth, we can clearly see earth is rotating. Seasons are changing. That means we are going near and far away from the sun. Clearly. They say yugas. Yugas are nothing but like how the earth has its own axis. Sun also has its own axis. But sun is so huge that when the sun in its own axis, when it's closer to earth, our energies automatically go to our head because of sun's gravity. That's why we call it Satya Yuga. We say Dwapara Yuga. We say Treta Yuga. That time people used to live for 100 years, 200 years, 500 years. We've heard our rishis, gurus live for 200 years. And they were only focused on truth. That's because sun's influence was much nearer. As the sun starts receding in its own axis away from the earth, we call it Kali Yuga, the dark ages. Where sun's influence is less, automatically the energy which has to be here starts going towards the lower organs. And people start creating crimes. It will become norm. Adharmas become norm. That is a challenge. So today, that's the reason why today SATalks or these kind of things is needed, because it is eroding. Values are getting eroded. And the yuga is also like that. Anyway, so what is the trap for emotions?
Attachment.
Identity.
Emotion means it will get identified with something. That's a trap. This is mine. Even when people say, they'll always stress the I. Did you come to SATalks? How was it? Yeah. It was fantastic. But you know what? I came there at 8:30 promptly. It's not about the message of SATalks. It's not about the questions you heard in SATalks. It's not about anything else, but you came here at 8:30. So, it's very important. Like when your son says something, you taught your son something, and you say that you didn't write this answer properly. I taught you. No, you didn't teach me. You're saying I didn't teach. That's identification. That means you have only taught. So that identification. So like this, husband and wife fights. A lot of fights will happen, where husband or wife will say that my parents, my childhood I was like this, but marriage is all about destroying your identity. Destroying your identity. It's an experiential lesson in destroying your identity and allowing another person to come into your life. But that's where identity is growing. We get emotional fights. Most of the fights are not logical fights. They are not because of the body, they are not because of the mind, but they are because of the emotion. Because emotion will always be strongly connected to your identifications. If you are identified with your body strongly, you will always want to protect that. Somebody says something about your body, you will get affected. You will always be comparing another person with your body. Am I as fat as that person? Am I as thin as that person? Keep asking. Or identity is, what is happening is, identity is, without even you realize that identities have happened over the years. Like Sir said, from childhood these identities have come. But how to disidentify? How to say that this is not mine? Am I saying that you should become a sadhu, sannyasi or saint, go to the forest? You can be very much. Just like the lotus, you can be in dirty water, but water will not touch you. Provided you become aware that identifications only are trapping your emotions. You're becoming emotional simply because of your identifications. When somebody shouted at my children, I got upset because I thought they are my children. They are not your children. You can say they are your children, but it's a life. Kahil Gibran says, your children are not your children. They are life's longing for itself. Please understand this. Their life's longing for itself. You provided the body. You provided food. You provided education. You provided this. So does that mean you possess them? The car doesn't start, you can hit at the steering. Steering is not going to shout at you back. But the same teenage son, you shout, teenage son is going to shout back. Why the challenge comes when children become teenagers? A lot of parents come to me complaining, saying that children are not listening to me. Children are going out of our hands. They become very emotionally hurt. That is because they thought children are theirs. They thought they possess the children. But they are a life. Now life will always try to create an identity of its own. As the child starts growing, the child wants to create an identity of its own. Obviously, if the child has to have an identity of its own, it will not be like yours, na? It will be completely opposite as yours. Whatever you do, the child will want to do opposite, because if it does exactly like you, where is the identity? Where is the individuality? A child which doesn't have an individuality will find it very tough to survive in this world. A child of a dominating parent becomes a very soft character who doesn't face the world. Either they become very insecure, unable to face the world, or they become like a bomb. Hey, come on, I'll prove it to you, kind of. There's no balance in emotions. There's no balance. That's because either way the psychology develops. Either I'll totally listen to my parents and be exactly like them, so they don't have any individual identity, or they become like totally rebel. Whatever parents say, I will not listen. Correct? You've seen this. We see this in daily life, right? Emotions are, okay, we'll go a little bit deeper. I told you. What is emotion doing? It is getting identified. This is mine. These people are mine. This is my family. This is my dress. This is my car. This is my job. All these are identifications. Whatever you are identified with, that is only possible of making you hurt. That is only possible of making you angry. Your anger arises from your identifications only. Nowhere else it can. Somebody says, hey, that company, that's a useless company. You say, you discuss, you also chat. But they say, hey, the company you are working, no, it's absolute fraud company. Start getting really upset. How can you tell my company like that? After that, after a few months, they fire you from the job. You will only say, this is a bloody fraud company I was working for. Most of your emotions are coming from your identity, and personality is the biggest identity. This is who I am. I am a dad. I am a this. I am a that. I am a this. See, we have to do some much more deeper work to really become aware of your personality. The time is very short in SATalks, but we will, over the weeks and months to come, we will see how to become more and more aware of your personality. Because, see, personality you put up to survive in this world, but that's become the trap. It's like a glass house. You're sitting inside the glass house. Somebody walking on the road just throwing a stone. You're afraid, oh my God, what if it cracks the glass house? You don't realize it's a glass house. But that personality only has become a prison. That emotions have have beautiful personality. But you're not seeing beyond it. See, your parents have said, as parents, always the children, we will only say, hey, wow, superb, fantastic, excellent, do this, you're that, you're this, you're that.
Sometimes in army what happens is this conditioning and identity is very important. What happens is we identify with the regiment that I am serving.
Correct.
Where I am commanding.
Correct.
What happens is, troops are conditioned. We are identifying every time we are telling them my regiment is the best, my jawans are the best.
Correct.
Sometimes what happens is the emotions flow so high, we are always on the winning streak.
Correct.
He may be weak, but when he identifies I am part of this particular regiment, he is my boss and we have to win this battle. Even if it is slightly at a disadvantage,
Yep.
but we win it.
Correct.
So sometimes identification with the organization.
No, that's what I'm saying. So, one second. Identification is needed for survival. It's needed for survival. Without identification, you cannot survive. Without saying, I am doing this, you cannot survive in this world at all. You cannot become successful in a job. In a job, have you seen people who don't have any identification? They fail miserably. In a job is like a battlefield. The world is like a battlefield where you have to have an identity. If not, you struggle. It's like going into a battle. I have no weapons. You're going to get shot. Right? But having an identity in relationships is going to hurt the relationships. I am a big boss. You come into the house. We know who is the boss in the house, so automatically. So, having an identity, when to have that identity, when not to have that identity. That awareness we need to develop. It's only like this coat. I'll go home and remove it. Should I wear it all day? Should I bathe with it? Should I sleep with it? No. It's only an identity. So but people are so closely emotionally attached to their identity that they think that is who they are. That is who they are. And they get the rude shock. Almost 99% of the people get a rude shock only few minutes before their death. That's a sad thing.
We are still in that state now.
That's a sad thing because you are so worried about your survival. You're afraid of your survival. Oh my God, if I give up my identity, how will I survive? If people don't respect me, they'll not pay me money. If people don't think that this is who I am, I will not get money. How will I feed my family? This is the biggest worry for people. Emotion is tied to your survival. Why you get so angry? Because it is tied to your survival. It is tied to your very survival. But your awareness is right now in the identity of the body, identity of the mind, identity of the personality. That's not who you are. That's the whole drama. Yeah, Ms. Ba.
Feeling of my wife, my children, my home, will it not make us more responsible?
Will it not make you more responsible? See, it's a very good question. Right now, that is the highest responsibility you have taken. When you say that I am a family man, it's your responsibility to protect your family, obviously. The responsibility comes from ownership. It's true, very true. That itself is becoming an identity. That itself is becoming identity. But in the eyes of Sat, in the eyes of truth, you don't own anything. You don't own anything. Do I own the body? If you own the body, then stop it from dying. Na? I own my life. If you own your life, you can decide when you have come, when to go. Na? Then what only I own? You own only one thing. You own the responsibility of your past actions. That's all. You don't own anything else. You don't own anything else. This is my karma. This is what has happened. Yeah, you only created. Nobody else is created. You cannot blame anybody else for that. Do you own the body? No, you don't own the body. Do you own your life? You don't own your life also. But this is so deep for 99% people, cannot understand. But thankfully this is SATalks. So we will talk truth here boldly. You own, again and again I'm saying, you're responsible for the results of your own actions. Your own actions. But we have created most of the actions in unawareness. So we are suffering. If only we bring our awareness to that stage, where we start taking every action in awareness, most of our old effects, most of our old challenges will get solved. What is currently doing also we will be able to solve because we are in awareness. One last thing on Sat about emotions is, I just need to. Any more questions? Any more questions? Any last questions? Very good question, Bala sir. Yeah. One last very important aspect about emotion is, in fact, Sunita ji answers, and you will find this very thing is, emotion is energy in motion. Correct. Please listen to this very carefully. When fire is there, you need to channelize it. Water is coming, gushing. Is it good or bad? If it's not channelized, it will go and take up some villages, kill people. But the same water put in a dam, electricity, so much of advantages. Emotion is like that. It's like a water, it's like a fire which is rushing. But what is happening today, that emotion is triggering your old memory. Old memory is what? I am a dad, I am a family man, I am a boss, I am a this, I am a that. All these identifications is triggering. You understand? Energy is rushing, emotion. Now it's triggering that identity. Why it's triggering that identity? Because you have only created that memory again and again. You watch movies, oh, I am like the hero, I am like the hero, I am like the hero, I am like the hero. Somebody says you are zero, you get upset. Because you have so much memory of, I am the hero. You have so much memory of, I am the mother, I am the mother. Son says something, you are not treating me well as a mother, you get upset. Because you have so much memory of being a mother. You have so much memory of being a good employee. Somebody says something, you get upset because your emotion is triggering that old memory. If only you make this change, when emotions are rising, instead of allowing it to trigger the memory, if you allow it to trigger your awareness, if you allow it to trigger your alertness, if you allow it to trigger your calmness, if you allow it to trigger your stability, if you allow it to trigger your logical thinking, you can control your emotions. You can be in control, you can master your emotions, because that emotion is rising. See, for Mahatma Ji also, when they threw him out of the train in South Africa, he became very emotional. He could have shouted, he was a lawyer, he could have gone to court. But he said, this is not the solution. I want freedom for my countrymen. I will fight, but on the foundation of Dharma. I will fight on the foundation of Dharma. That I will not allow my emotions to blind my rationality means you allowed your emotions to trigger the Sat inside you, the truth inside you, is that your life, you are not an identity, you are not that memory, you are not that identity. That identity is coming from your body, it's coming from your mind, it's coming from your personality, your ego. That's all false. It's going to fall. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line, it's all going to fall. It is not truth at all. It is asat. So what is the point in allowing that emotion to trigger asat again and again and again? My family, my business, my clothes, my gadgets, asat. You're allowing, but you have to allow it to trigger sat. What is your duty as that? The last final thing that I want to say, just an illustration, again from quoting from Mahabharata, because it's all stories. Don't look at it as a religious thing or anything. It's just a story. When the Pandava brothers, they went to drink water, and one by one they fell unconscious. Yudhishthira came, he was totally emotional. He said, oh my God, all my brothers are unconscious. They're almost like dead. What has happened? And then Yaksha started asking questions. Yaksha Prashna, we have this thing on dharmic questions. After asking 124 questions, which all Yudhishthira said, in fact, we are starting a series called Dharmic Questions. Thanks to GK, he's triggered this, and you will be hearing dharmic questions very soon, because it's a question that everybody has in mind. Is this right or wrong? Is this good or bad? Should I do it? But our elders, our gurus have written everything. What is dharma, what is not, they've already written, they've experienced, they've spent lifetimes after lifetimes. And finally, Yaksha is very happy. Yaksha is nobody but Yama. He comes and he says, okay, you're my son. And he says, whatever you want, you ask. His brothers are dead. They're very emotional. In an emotional state, he could have triggered the old memory. And he said, I should take revenge on Duryodhana. Let me have my kingdom back. Or let me go. He could have done whatever it is. But he allowed that emotion to trigger his rationality, his duty consciousness, his dharma, his sat. You know what he asked? He said, all this started because one deer took away that wooden sticks from a Brahmin who could not conduct the daily puja. So please give that wooden sticks back. First boon. Yama was shocked. He could have asked anything. The god of death comes in front of you. You can ask eternal life. But for him, that is truth. As a king, his responsibility is to protect the person who has come to him. That's his duty consciousness. That is dharma. So, now, see, look at our elders, how they teach the truth. Because emotion will always make you take sides. Invariably, you will take the side of whom? Yourself only. Your identifications only you will take. Correct? But that's not the truth. Does sun say, only the good person I will give the sun? Does the rain say, only the rich person I will rain? Even for the small ant, same thing. Even for the most richest human being, same thing. Sat means seeing beyond your emotions. Seeing the person not as he is my father, he is my mother, he is my mother, my boss, my this thing. Don't see that person like that. Sat means seeing the person, seeing an animal, seeing another life form as a life. That life is also born, that will also die. So that means it has to be the same life inside. Only thing is, to the level of ignorance, to the level of past actions, they are stuck in different bodies. That sat, if you start developing, you will start seeing life as life. Then you will not get stuck in emotions. You will see beyond emotions. That emotion is only for survival. It doesn't last long. You will see emotion doesn't last long. Does it rain a whole day? Does it, what to say, any emotion is like that, unnatural. Emotion is unnatural. It just comes and it goes. But beyond that, there is a truth. There is a life within you. So don't allow your emotions to trigger your old memory. Don't allow your emotions to, trigger the personality or identifications. That is what it will do. It will again and again push you to do it. Yeah, 2-3 exercises that we said we will teach at the end. We will just say this right now. I'll just do this. You can start practicing it. You can start practicing that, and then we will close the session. Okay. Srini, you can just